From Topps comes the all-new digital card collecting app, free to download from iTunes or Google Play. Star Wars Card Trader.
For the first time ever, collect and trade everything from legendary 1977 Star Wars cards to new cards featuring exclusive content from Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
All from the comfort of your mobile devices. Star Wars Card Trader.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z and Cory Club, the podcast you're looking for. This is. Yes.
For an entire generation, people have experienced Star Wars the only way it's been possible, on the TV screen. But if you've only seen it this way, you haven't seen it at all.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
We've been waiting for you.
The Force is strong here, even stronger than the coffee.
At last! Where have you been?
Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. Here are your hosts, Dan Z and Cory Club.
Hello, this is Cory Club, and welcome to show number 52 of Coffee with Kenobi. We are a Star Wars podcast that analyzes our favorite saga in a whole new way. With me is my good friend and co-host, Dan Z.
Hello, everybody. A special shout out to Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Angela Souse, Neil Lowry, Mediocre Jedi, Mike Winder, Daniel, Aaron Harris, Mark Sutter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page. By supporting our Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a Coffee Chat podcast of your own. Check out our webpage or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, and Zach Designs affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to the Coffee with Kenobi family.
In today's show, author Chris Taylor joins us as we discuss our topic for show number 52, the impact of The Force Awakens on the Star Wars saga. We also discuss The Force Awakens coming to Blu-ray and DVD, the return of Disney Star Wars Cruise, the Star Wars Podcast Awards, and Nick DiColandrea returns with our look at Star Wars video games.
In collector news, we discuss Anovos' latest offering and revisit Disney Infinity's The Force Awakens playset with Cory's experiences playing with his family. We'll also share more of your feedback and introduce our topic for show number 53.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
Oh, wait. This is interesting.
You found something.
I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
So it's March 2016. We're looking some wonderful news coming up here, but first we're going to play some catch-up as far as the Coffee Kenobi family. Dan and I have been hard at work, doing jobs and taking care of business. So, Dan, what's on your plate this month?
What's on my plate this month, Cory, and this isn't Star Wars related, but you have to start today, because the day we're recording is the day we found out that Indiana Jones is coming back.
Yeah,
it's coming back. And I know it's not Star Wars, but it's Lucasfilm. So one of my students said, well, Indiana Jones and Star Wars really aren't the same thing. And I said, you're right. I said that George Lucas created both of them, and Harrison Ford is in both of them, and they're both awesome. But other than that, there's no similarities at all. He laughed. But I'm as excited for this as I was when you texted me and told me that Disney purchased Lucasfilm and there were going to be a new Star Wars trilogy. That's as excited as I am for this news.
Yeah, it's funny. We always kind of talk about, us one-upping each other as far as texting new news or confirmed official news. And you got me on this one, definitely. I checked my phone earlier this afternoon, and I think you just said Indy, and I was like, Indy. So I jumped on the internet, and there it was, lo and behold. Our good friend
I sent you the
Ed
link
Delsta.
Too.
Yeah, you had the link on there. Ed Delsta had mentioned something. I was excited for him. This is big news for Star Wars fans and indie fans, and I know you and I are both huge Indiana Jones fans. And it's I don't know, it's just like, it's right up there with Star Wars for me. It's like hearing news like this, it's almost like a dream come true. It is. It's just strange to hear. It's like, whoa, we get another one? Are you serious? It's exciting.
And we knew that was going to happen, I think, don't you?
Sure. Oh, well, once Disney kind of bought Star Wars, the franchise there, Indy was not too far behind, I think, with them curating the wonderful stuff they do. Disney Park theme parks, what's done their live action show on the ride, and they've just been wonderful caretakers of the Indiana Jones franchise thus far.
Well, and everything you mentioned is stuff that was already in place. There hasn't been anything new since they acquired the rights from Paramount and got this all squared away. So now the mind reels about possibilities. Disney Infinity Indiana Jones figures, more action figures, a Black Series. Hopefully comics. I was talking with Matt and Jeff today on the Comics with Kenobi Twitter feed, and we're all pretty hopeful there'll be some canonical Indiana Jones comics. It's very, very cool. It's very, very exciting, and it's going to be tricky. I don't know how much our listeners want us to talk about Indiana Jones, but it's just going to pop up once in a while because we're very excited. You mentioned Ed Dallista. I emailed him, and he and I chatted back and forth a little bit today. And if you go to the next Indie cast, you're going to hear Cory and I's thoughts in more detail about Indiana Jones. So we're very excited and cannot wait to see what's going to happen from the House of Mouse, because the Man in the Hat is back.
So, Dan, keeping with our triumphant return of things, we get to see Star Wars become realized on Blu-ray and DVD here very, very soon. April 1st is kind of the digital HD release, and then on April 5th, we see a combo pack DVD of kind of Blu-ray special editions out there. As far as, I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say special editions, should I?
It has a different connotation.
It does. I don't want to mince words.
The fun keeps rolling, and there's a number. We knew there was, of course, all kinds of speculation it was going to come out very soon, and so you get the announcement. It's great. What I'm incredibly excited about, besides being able to watch the film whenever I want, and even though I've seen it in theaters 6 times, just knowing that I'm going to be able to watch it again very soon at home, I almost feel like a kid at Christmas yet again.
Yeah,
because Star Wars is the gift that perpetually gives.
It keeps on
and
giving, yeah.
These extras, dude. I mean, they are like incredible. I think we'll just kind of go over them. We've got Secrets of the Force Awakens, a cinematic journey. They're going to go very in depth with exclusive interviews and footage. They're going to show the table read, which I think is going to be spectacular. Building BB-8, crafting creatures. You want to take the rest of them?
Yeah, sure. The blueprint for a battle, the snow fight, which sounds amazing. John Williams' The Seventh Symphony. We got ILM's Visual Magic, The Force. Force for Change. Some deleted scenes, and looks like that kind of a digital bonus offerings may vary between realtors. So if you guys are looking to check some of the stuff out, I would just kind of dig into some of your favorite places to shop online or in stores and see what they kind of have to offer. It seems like a variety of different stores, I think, have different variations of some of this stuff, maybe packaging and whatnot. So keep an eye open for still discs or still packaging from some folks, and
we've got
extras.
We've got the news on that too. I mean, we've got a list of the exclusives. By the way, are you into the technical side of the DVD? Like the sound and that. I mean, I
don't have the setup for it.
7.1 DTS.
Yeah,
HDMA.
It's. I'm not. Well, there's some folks out there
Coffee with Kenobi East Side Studios. Yeah. We're gonna have that pretty soon.
Nice, very good. So yeah, there's all kinds of good stuff in here. So
let's look at the exclusives. We've got. I mean, Target's got one.
Yeah.
Walmart has one, Best Buy has one, and then recently announced the Disney Store has one with a lithograph.
Yeah.
Which one do you have your eye on?
I saw a lithograph one from Disney Store, and that sounded pretty cool as far as getting something a little extra with it, along with the movie itself, plus different versions of it to watch. That seems something kind of special. I could have and hold, and not so much into the digital extra. That might
to have and hold.
On.
Are you going to marry this?
I might. We'll see. We'll see.
And in health.
Yes, right. There's one big part of this that I'm excited for. So,
what's that?
My youngest daughter, Ashlyn, and she has not seen it yet. So I'm debating about showing it to her. Maybe one night we'll sit down and watch it with the boys and stuff. And I'm curious to see what she thinks because, as you'll get to understand, we got to play the Star Wars Infinity game. We got to borrow some of Dan's figures. Most importantly, the Rey and Finn and Poe, and she didn't know exactly who Rey was, just by context of that character. She doesn't, she hasn't seen her on screen yet, so she can't put it in context. She knows Hera and Sabine and those type of characters, so she's seen them, but Rey hasn't been on her radar yet. So I'm excited to kind of let that, be naturally given to her this way because I I don't know, the whole theater experience was a little too much, I think, for her.
Sure.
It's kind of a decision we made early on, and so, and also my wife hasn't seen it yet, so.
She hasn't?
No.
I don't think I knew that.
No.
How many times did you end up seeing it? 3, right?
3 times, yep.
Yep. Well,
So,
taking the students on that field trip was a good excuse to go to the theater.
That was really awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun blog, too, with John Morton, which hopefully everybody saw on StarWars.com. As far as the specifics, the Target one it's got the overview of the posters of just the eyes of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I got the Han Solo one hanging up in my classroom right now. It's a thing of beauty.
Nice.
Yeah. The Target one is BB-8, and that might be my favorite one, to be honest.
Yeah, that cover looks sharp. It looks really nice.
It is sharp. And then the Best Buy is the steelbook packaging with Kylo and Phasma on it, and the interior is the classic by now scene of the X-Wing and the ties from the original teaser from Black Friday 2 years ago. So,
oh man, that was a long time ago.
I know.
And now we get to have it at home. That's so cool.
In a galaxy far, far away. So they're all very nice. I like the DVD cover because it's the poster, the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital one, which is probably the one we'll end up getting. Is it's like the stands. I think the stand-ins that they had in movie theaters.
Oh right.
With the images, I don't know how you transpose. You're the designer under the font. So it's beautiful. I mean, we're very pumped, as is everyone who's listened to this, and by the time our next show comes out, we will have already seen it. So look for a review of the special features as well as the Blu-ray coming very soon from Coffee with Kenobi. Our second news story, it comes as no surprise either, although it's a very welcome one as far as when it was announced, but the Star Wars Disney cruises were so successful aboard the Disney Fantasy in 2016, so now they're going to do them again in 2017, and they're 7-night cruises, Eastern and Western Caribbean, and you leave from Port Canaveral, which is in Florida, about 35 minutes from Orlando, from the heart of Orlando. And it's early January through mid-April. And much as we talked about earlier, these cruises, I mean, I don't know, you haven't been on a Disney cruise yet.
No.
Yet.
No, yeah. Not yet. Yeah. Yeah, you have.
We said before we went on our honeymoon. They're phenomenal and spectacular. And one of the highlights is the fireworks. The second to last night, I believe, you're at sea. And when you're on it normally, it's Pirates of the Caribbean, on the Caribbean. And this time they're Star Wars, and it's crazy. I mean, I love seeing the exploits of this. And next month we're going to have Steve Sansweet on, and he's going to tell us about his experiences on the Disney cruise for Star Wars. But Pablo Hidalgo was on it, Andy Gutierrez was on it, a lot of Star Wars dignitaries have been on it. They show all of the films, special merchandise, which of course I'm all about. They're going to be showing Rogue One, as they've said.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
And oh my gosh, there's what do you think about this, dude?
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I've never been on a cruise ever, so I can't say that I can relate it to anything. So, yeah, but I know that Disney puts on such a good show. We've been to Disney numerous times, and like you said, the fireworks are out of this world and excellent. So you mentioned, I believe it was when you went to the Star Wars cruise, that the fireworks are the best you'd ever seen.
Well, just the Disney cruise. Now, when I did a Star Wars cruise, was just not even a twinkle in my eye yet. But the thing about a cruise, especially a Disney cruise, is it's more immersive than anything I've ever experienced in my life. And I've been a very, very blessed guy. I've got to do a lot of cool things. And there's something about when you're at the top of the boat in the middle of the ocean, when it's dark out and the moon is sort of in the distance or hidden by clouds.
Sure.
You can't see where water ends and the air begins. I mean, it's like you're literally floating in a black hole.
I have a question too, and maybe you could speak to this. You know, like you talked about that moment, kind of sailing at sea there at night, and just the awe of it. Do you feel like you're the king of the world?
Yeah, I was leaning on the top and I fell on D and I caught my ankle, which was very exciting. Pulse pounding. No, I actually didn't think about Titanic the entire time. And that's probably a good thing.
Probably a good thing.
But no, it's a beautiful thing, and I mean you can sit on the deck, and they have this. It's called what is it called? Splash vision, tunnel vision. I don't know what it is, but it's pretty cool. It's a ginormous screen that no matter what the sun is doing, you can see it perfectly in HD. And they show Rebels on there and different Star Wars stuff. And if you in any way can do this, I say go for it, because I really think I'm not going to say it's up there with Celebration, because it's just so different. You've got the Disney style, the food on a cruise, out of this world wonderful. They keep giving you whatever you want, and the waiters follow you around the different restaurants because you rotate all the time, and they get to know your preferences and your taste. And it's very cool. You get to know certain people on the boat. When we were on it before, there were certain people that worked on these boats, and they remember you and what you're wearing or whatever, and they joke around with you, and they become like little family members for a very brief time, albeit. And even though it doesn't seem that way, but it's very relaxing too. I could go on and on about this, but
I will say that it reminds me of Disney. They make an experience out of it, so you're not just there for a vacation or there for there for an experience. And I think that Disney provides that very well. Among all the things they do, they say the food and the activities and all that stuff. It seems like they go out of their way to make you feel comfortable, make sure everything's ready to go, and to add Star Wars to the mix, and just be able to walk around and interact with things that are Star Wars oriented or themed. It'd be so much fun. I mean, even for kids, I think. They might be afraid to go do these things and enjoy, being on a boat, but they can go and do Jedi training and stuff like that, and like I say, eat food that's probably Jedi themed and Star Wars themed, and have parties and stuff. I mean, you talk about fireworks, and it's just like a good time as far as an experience with family members and friends, and it's definitely on the list. It's right up there. We talked about this before about doing some things maybe in the next year, 2 years or so, Star Wars themed, and one of them is going to Disney together and experiencing Star Wars as when it comes to be.
That's happening.
Yeah, that's going to happen, and run Disney possibly. So what are this kind of place on that list?
The cruise. Well, that's what I was trying to think about. It's really, it's in its own list, and that sort of sounds like a cop out, but it's not. And this is maybe, let me put it to you this way.
Sure.
When we were there, we were on the boat for 5 days. It was a 4-night cruise. The 5th day, you wake up, have breakfast, and then you leave. We were so depressed, dude, when we left the cruise. We went to the Magic Kingdom that day. The Magic Kingdom, right? The happiest place on Earth.
Yeah.
And we were depressed.
Yikes.
We were walking around and thinking, we're not on the boat. And so we looked at each other and we kind of said, at the same time, we got to get over this. We got to get over ourselves. This is ridiculous. We're at the Magic Kingdom. Let's have a blast. And we did. Of course we did. But that's how amazing these cruises are. And and I'm talking about, there wasn't even Star Wars. Now, if I went on it when there was Star Wars, I would probably have to stow away.
You're right. They'd have to pull you off by your
Tom
teeth.
Hanks. Yeah. Yes. I'd be on that baby for a long time because, wow. I mean, it's too bad we're not getting paid to talk about this because we're doing a good job. It's great.
Well, we're excited. I mean, I think it's the other thing, too. It's like talking about this kind of stuff is exciting. It's exciting for Disney to do stuff like this, put together these seaside adventures, and it's not any surprise to me that this being such a good people are enjoying this and they're adding more to their new scheduling and whatnot. So it's something that I think families who, like you mentioned exactly, if you get a chance to do this, definitely do it. It's definitely up there as a fun thing to do, Star Wars oriented, and let us know what you think and have a good time. For our next bit of Star Wars news, we've got the Star Wars Podcast Awards, which we've been graciously nominated in a couple of categories here, and we'll review some of those here. We're very excited to be part of this event, and we couldn't be more blessed to be in multiple categories. Dan and I really excited to see this kind of come to fruition as far as our show and our podcast, and we couldn't do this without all our great fans and followers and family members. So here are a couple categories that we mentioned in. So we have the cover art and logo of Coffee with Kenobi. We've got editing and production for Coffee with Kenobi. We have literature for Comics with Kenobi, and the new show, rookie show, Lattes with Leia. A People's Choice Award for Coffee with Kenobi, and Podcast Network Coffee with Kenobi, which includes our own host show, Coffee with Kenobi, Comics with Kenobi, Rebels Reactions, Lattes with Leia, and Legends Library. Dan, I'm overwhelmed, dude. This is
I know.
incredible. This is so much fun.
It's remarkable. When I told my family about it, they're like, "Wow, really?" And I know, isn't it incredible? Right? I think you said it very well, my friend. It's so kind, and you mentioned these categories, and I'm so proud. Like when I see the cover art, I mean, of course I voted for you because it's our show, but you designed this thing, and we've got more compliments over the years, and I'm convinced that some people have listened to us strictly because they saw your logo. So hats off to you, my friend. Well done.
Thank you. I mean, it goes without saying, obviously, we both work on the editing and production and put together the shows and everything. So it's definitely both of us working together. But also, I want to mention a shout out to our co-hosts for the other shows that have been mentioned here. I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like you get nominated for something. I cannot think of other ways to be more happy for my friends and our network itself, because it's exciting to just be lifted up a little bit, cheered on, and it's I think it's fun. It's a blast for people to have some recognition. I know a lot of other folks, other podcasts that we really enjoy are nominated as well. So I mean, I would just urge folks to go out, check the link in our show notes, and go out and vote for your favorite Star Wars podcast for some of these categories that you like the best. And I wish us well as far as what comes next. But I think on the whole, the Star Wars Podcast Awards have done a good job this year putting things together. Some of the categories are a lot of fun. This is the first year.
It's Andy.
Yeah,
and Mike who did it, and they put a lot of hours into this thing, and it's all done out of love for Star Wars and podcasting, and they're great ambassadors for the franchise and for fandom as well. So it's nice that they've done this. It's amazing. So we appreciate you guys doing that. You hinted around to this, and I'm going to stretch a little bit further. I'm so proud of Comics with Kenobi.
Yeah.
And, Matt and Jeff, of course, are rock stars, and we love those guys. We love everybody in our podcasting family. And we're just proud of them. I mean, they do. I think it's the best Star Wars comic book show out there. I don't even think it's close. And I don't mean that against the other shows. I mean, these guys know their stuff. They're entertaining. They're engaging. They have real chemistry, and we're proud of them. Lattes with Leia, I mean, my gosh, it's been 2 shows, and each one is, I mean, it's great. I mean, Andre and Amy are fantastic, and people already love them anyway, and the fact that they're on our network, as we talked about before, is nice. So to see them recognized is great, and, awesome. The People's Choice, that, to me, we're listed with, I think, 4 other podcasts. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
It's like, who do people think is the best show? That's nuts to me. I think there are a lot of shows that could be on there. I did not expect that about our show in any way, shape, or form. And I was tickled, man. It's such a nice thing, and just the fact that people would jump in there and select us. The thing I'm the most proud of, there were 2 things I was the most proud of. You for the cover art, and the guys from Comics with Kenobi. But also, even more than that, the fact that our whole network got recognized. Everybody in our family does a really good job of producing quality. They're consistent. They're always enthusiastic, and they're always positive. Like, there's nobody in our network that is negative or curmudgeonly. Although maybe Jeff and Matt.
I was going to say Matt.
But that's all done. That's playful.
Sure.
That's playful.
Well, it's nothing like... You talk about criticism. That comes with bringing a fandom to the mix. And speaking to something we love. So nothing but love for, Star Wars and all the things that are incorporated with that. Of course, Dan, speaking of our fans and our followers on Twitter, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them nominated for such great categories in this great podcast awards. It's just, it's run by fans and curated and loved by fans. So I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm like you mentioned too. It's surprising to see us in this many categories, and I'm just enjoying it, doing what we do as far as putting out shows and content, and just putting together a show that we enjoy doing, just speaking and talking about. So that'll never stop too. It's really humbling that they would think to nominate us for People's Choice for any of these things.
again, Coffee with Kenobi, Comics with Kenobi, Matt and Jeff, we talked about Earl's reaction with Aaron. It's really hard to let go of something that you love and give it to someone else. And Aaron has consistently put out quality, and he talks with the members of our CWK blogging family, and they're always fun and engaging to listen to. We talked about Lattes with Lay and Legends Library. Randy and Luke, they were the first show to
approach us,
help us become a network. I mean, I never thought of us as a network. I think I really see us more as a family. I really do, and I don't mean that in a maudlin way. I sincerely mean that, the way that we collaborate and work together, and all of our shows on our network, we're so proud of them, and we're happy to be sharing the airwaves with them. And I'm glad that you mentioned that anyone that voted for us, even considered us, or just was kind to us on Twitter or Facebook, we really appreciate so much that you would even consider us, because, I mean, when you're talking about competition, Cory, there are millions of Star Wars podcasts, and they all are so good for so many different reasons, and they're just different ways to approach the saga, and the fact that so many people put so much time into this. So when you get a chance, go ahead and go to the link in our show notes, or you look at the Star Wars Podcasting Awards on Twitter. You can go to their website, Star Wars Podcast Awards, and vote for your favorites. It's wonderful. So thanks again to everybody for putting us there, and be sure to vote. You have until March 24th.
Well, hello again, my Coffee with Kenobi friends. This is Nick DiColandrea, your mediocre father of three video game guide through the Star Wars universe. And I want to take this time to thank you all for listening last month, and a shout out to all my new friends on Twitter and friends in Battlefront that I get to play with quite frequently. It's been a great pleasure to get to know you guys and all the wonderful comments that you've said the past few weeks. So thank you for all the kind words. I look forward to doing this hopefully every month, and providing you guys new insight into the video games that are coming out, and hopefully one day maybe will be released for us Star Wars fans, that will encompass so much more of our favorite universe. And that is, of course, Star Wars. So with no further ado, let's jump right in to part 2 of our venture into the Star Wars universe of video games. And we're going to do mobile games. I want to take time to step away from the consoles and actually talk a little bit about the handheld devices that we love so much, and probably, if you're like me, spend more time than you should playing video games on it, instead of answering emails or taking cute pictures of your kids, instead just playing those games that might come in 5-minute intervals of your freedom. So 2 games I want to talk to you about really quickly today. One is Galaxy of Heroes by EA, oddly enough. And the second is going to be the companion app to the game Battlefront, which actually is also a game. But first, Galaxy of Heroes. This is a game actually I didn't really start playing when it first came out. I think, honestly enough, I think an advertisement on Facebook or someplace drew me in. One of those, hey, click and sign up and get 300 or get shards for Poe Dameron. And I was like, oh, okay, well, Force Awakens, let me play this game, let's see how it is. I have some space on my phone. I haven't had a new Star Wars game in a while. And let me tell you, this is definitely worth your time. This is definitely a game that doesn't really add much to the canon, except you get to play with a bunch of different characters that we've never had a chance to play with before in the Star Wars universe. And so from that perspective, it is definitely a fun game, just to be able to play with different villains and heroes that we've never had the opportunity to explore what their special abilities might be, or their strategic battles plans in a battle with the Emperor or something. So let me just break it down really quick for you. It's a strategy game. It's turn based. You're building a squad of heroes and villains, either together or by themselves, to battle other heroes and villain squads that are either AI or online random opponents, in order to up your statute in the game itself. There is so much to do in this game. There's daily challenges, there's different campaigns, there's rotating events, there's special events, really, and then there's things that you unlock as you rank yourself up and you get more experience points. So it really is endless. And compared to what I talked about last month, which was the no campaign mode for Battlefront, in which you just kind of keep playing the multiplayer, but you really don't progress in anything except for your own personal stats. You get to level up a bunch of different characters, you get to unlock new new villains and heroes, new events, new things to achieve and go for as you're playing this game. So it really kind of brings you in. And I find myself honestly playing this game, probably more often than I do the console games that I have for Star Wars, just because my phone's always with me, and I might have a few minutes here or there filling up the gas station or at work, and I just want a quick Star Wars fix, and I'll play for 10 minutes, maybe, I think I play this game at least 30 minutes a day, just doing the things to get achievements, but also I want to see these players rank up. I actually want to unlock Yoda. I want to unlock Old Ben. I want to get Darth Maul. I want to put him on the same team and see what that would be like and how crazy that would look. So that is really kind of my 2 cents into a game. If you're looking for a great mobile game to kind of download and it's free, it's definitely worth your phone storage. It's not one of the larger games that Star Wars offers, like Knights of the Old Republic or I can't think of the other one right now, but there's another one out there that I'll try to get into later that I used to play that just took up like 2 gigabytes, and I was like, I kind of need space for my pictures of my kids, so unfortunately had to delete that. But this is definitely something I would dive into if you want just to get a good Star Wars fix every day. And I would say if you want an ally, you can make allies and friends in this game. You can use their characters to help yourself in events. Send me a tweet at Nick Dico, NickDico, and I'll gladly direct message you my ally code, which is like 12 numbers long because nothing's easy in these games with EA apparently. But oddly enough, it is by EA, and they've made a lot of great content, which is just night and day with what we talked about in Battlefront from last month. Because instead of getting like 5 characters and only a few different alien races to play as the Rebels, you get everybody. You get Greedo, you get Resistance soldiers, you get Force Awakens characters and Empire Strikes Back, and you get guys from the prequels. You get everybody mixed together, and it ends up just being really a holistic kind of feeling around the Star Wars universe. Like, oh, this is what it would be like if all these guys could actually fight each other or fight with each other. And it's great to see how the different powers would play off each other. If you had all Jedi or a lot of just attack fighters or healers and things like that, it's everything that you would want out of a very turn-based campaign game with Star Wars characters. So it gets my 2 thumbs up. I keep playing it all the time. And it's a great game to grind out for free. You don't need to drop $50 to get all the special characters. Of course you can, but you can easily grind it out compared to other games that really just take a lot of time. You can invest 30 minutes, 40 minutes a day and feel like you're making really good progress and still enjoying yourself. So with that, Galaxy of Heroes, 2 thumbs up. Briefly jump into Battlefront Part 2 and talk about their companion app. If you don't have it yet and you play the game on the console, you need to download the app. It's a great way to get kind of basically free credits through their game aspect of it, keep track of your stuff, unlock things, keep track of your stats. And, if you don't have the game, I would not recommend getting it. It's not really worth your while whatsoever. If you are going to get the game, then definitely go and download the app. I think I did see the console game on sale at Target this week, the week of March 13th for $40 at Target again. So it's definitely dropped in price as EA is really trying to get folks back into the console version. But the app is fantastic. If you have the game, I definitely give I give it 1 thumbs up, I would say, because I think still there's a lot of stuff it could be doing for the whole feel of being a Star Wars game. It just lets you be the rebels against the Empire. There's no Empire version of it, which is kind of just weird. But it's definitely updated with new daily challenges, new things for you to do. And there's really just 2 aspects of it, so it makes it really simple and clear cut. It's just a companion. You look at your stats, see the likable start cards and traits, and latest Battlefront news, which, that's what Google is for. And then there's the actual game part, which is a turn-based strategy. Once again, you're the rebels against the Empire. It's a campaign that you can go back and keep progressing on, but you can only get so far unless you actually play the actual console game. So that's why I recommend it. If you don't have the console game, you're only going to get so far, and it's not going to really worth much to you because the credits you use to unlock stuff in the console game. So, stay away from it unless you actually have the game. Otherwise, get it, download it. Get the, start helping yourself out when you go back and play on the PlayStation 4, the PC, or the Xbox. And wrapping up this whole session of our video game tour of the Star Wars universe is just briefly touching on the new Battlefront content that is coming out. Everybody said, hey, let's do Battlefront, talk about it again. All I want to touch on is stuff that's coming out in April, which might excite some folks to actually buy the game and play it. For me, EA could be doing more. They'll be releasing in April their first part of their downloadable content for Battlefront, which is called the Outer Rim, in which they'll give us Greedo and Nien Nunb as the new heroes and villains. Most of the internet has kind of had a collective head scratching over these choices. You can already play as Sulstans. You can already play, as Rhodians in these games. There's nothing new about these guys except we're playing two characters that have had maybe less than 3 minutes total screen time, and Greedo is best known for, so let's put him in a game that involves shooting. Anyway, so that's my take on these new things coming out. They did release some free content recently that is kind of cool. There is a map that, technically canon now that shows Endor on fire after the Battle of Endor. And that's actually kind of cool. Just like with Jakku, you kind of get a good feeling of how the Star Wars universe has evolved since the Return of the Jedi. And that's kind of what draws you in. It's just the experience of playing these places where it's new for us and it is new canon, and we want to experience it and live it and hear the sounds and feel like you're fighting the Empire or you're trying to save the Empire from the destruction of the Death Star. So in that regard, mixed bag, with definitely high marks on the new free stuff, but tentative to see if it'll be worth the cost of the DLC with the new stuff for Outer Rim. Where's Chewbacca? Where are the really great heroes? Give us IG-88. Greedo. Anyway, folks, that is it for me for this version of the video game guide to the Star Wars universe. Again, thanks to all the friends at Coffee with Kenobi, and I turn it back to them. May the Force be with you.
Han Solo, Rebel Soldier, Lando Calrissian, and Bespin Guard, each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back Collection, new from Kenner.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say, Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
For our first collector's news, there's a lot of fun things going on. I know that her universe has some great stuff, and anytime you get the inkling to check out her universe, if you use our affiliate link, it helps out the show, which is great. They sent out some stuff about WonderCon, new fashion panels there's like a cardigan, a Falcon cardigan. It says "Never tell me the odds" on the side of it. It's super cool, isn't it? I love that thing. But the thing that I wanted to talk about here, Anovos, our friends over there that have bestowed me with Stormtrooper armor. Cory.
Yes. Oh, yes.
They have the Han Solo Bespin ensemble, and it's of course awesome. It comes with the jacket, the shirt, the pants, even the belt. I guess is optional.
Yeah, even the belt.
The way they do it with the Stormtrooper armor is if you buy it by a certain time, it's cheaper, and then there are incentives for it. So right now, if you get it through between now and March 21st, it's $408, and then through the 21st, it's $458, and it goes up from there. But when I saw this, you know what the first thing was that I thought?
What's that?
I thought Jeff McGee.
Yeah.
That's his favorite figure, and so.
True.
I tweeted him that, and he said, "Well, there goes my tax refund."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, this is cool. It's weird because I've always kind of seeked out like what costume would I wear if I was dressed up like a Star Wars character, and this is what I've always kind of fallen back on. I feel it's really casual. It doesn't really jump out like I guess Luke's robe from A New Hope. that smock morning robe he wears. This is more of like a swagger to it. I mean, this is
Empire
Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got the jacket. He kind of casual looking. The flap of the collar's open, and he's just you could just lean up against a wall, and everybody's kind of looking at you, going, "Hey, that guy's a good looking guy there." So, I'm assuming that's what would happen. But Anovos has outdone themselves again with this stuff. It looks screen accurate, to the T.
Are you tempted to get it?
I don't have as big a tax refund as Jeff does, but so it's definitely tempting because it's one of those things that like, if that was a costume to get, that'd be something I would be interested in type thing. So
here's the question.
Yeah.
If money were no object, but you only get one, would you get this or the Stormtrooper armor?
I think I would get this. I'm not I don't know. This seems more casual to me.
Is it because I look better in the armor than you do?
I haven't tried it on yet. We have not discovered that yet. We'll have to put a poll out there on Twitter and match that up. But that's to come.
Well, it's still not assembled yet. So
I was going to ask for an update and wonder where you're at.
Well, my update is that I heard from Anovos that they just mailed the gloves and the undershirt pants that go with it. So as soon as I get that, I'll be in business.
So like, I'm curious to know the undershirt. Is it like a Under Armour type material?
Wears. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
So your muscles will pop out and...
Yes, they will.
Oh, excellent. So, back to the Han Solo costume. I've also toiled with the idea of just getting the blue jacket.
Toiled?
Toiled. Does that sound right?
No.
Yeah. No, toiled and troubled.
Toil means work.
I've worked towards it, maybe. I guess I've
say you've toyed.
Toyed with the idea?
Yeah.
I guess. You're the English teacher, I guess. Anyway, so, I've toyed with the idea of getting the blue jacket. You know, you can get some stuff out there on Etsy, and it just doesn't look right to me. But this one is, like, dead accurate, you know. The pockets are all there. It looks like it's made out of, premium material. And again, it's just, like, one of those things that's, like, it's got the swagger. It's got the look and feel to it. You know, that's Han Solo. I mean, he's all that and a bag of chips. So
he's got the moves like Jagger. How many pop culture random things can we throw in?
Right, exactly. No, this is actually a lot of fun, and Anovos never disappoints with their stuff. But very exciting, and be sure to jump in line first there to get a lower price from our link from our affiliate site. Thanks so much.
For our next collector news story, last episode, show 51, we talked about the Force Awakens Disney Infinity 3.0 playset, and I talked about it quite a bit because I really dove into it and played around with it. But we're going to look at this month from a different point of view because Cory took it and he played with the kids, and he was sending me pictures and screenshots, and I'm thinking you had a blast.
Yeah, so this past weekend we had a chance to kind of soak in some Disney Infinity time and hooked everything up and got all the characters laid out, unpackaged and whatnot, and laid them out. And so this is kind of the first. I guess we had a Star Wars birthday party last year for my oldest son and did the kind of similar thing. But this is more of a at home. We can kind of just run through everything in this, and it was a blast. We've played some of the other characters. You can kind of put on the pads and play them the figures on the screen there. And different concepts there, but I think Disney Infinity has done the best job with realizing, Star Wars into interactive game in this format. I think it's totally like open world. It's totally do whatever you want to do and just have a blast. There's nothing on here that's like not silly and goofy and fun and having a good time and smiles on the faces. So we had the privilege of borrowing some of Dan's Star Wars characters we didn't have, and so most of those were the Force Awakens characters. I had Kanan and Ben Kenobi and Ahsoka and Anakin from Clone Wars, and so it was a blast to be able to put these figures on the screen. And my boys, they didn't. It's like one of those things where like they would play for with Kanan for a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, let's be Ahsoka," or "Let's change to Finn," or "Let's go to Poe." It was just like constantly like, let's just see what these guys can do, and then all of a sudden they're driving a Spider-Man car or something around the Tron world. So it was such a mixture of like hilariousness, and then like they're throwing like, I don't know, pies at each other. It was just like there's so much silliness and goofiness.
Did you play the actual Force Awakens playset, or did you just run around in the open?
Yeah, so we did everything. So most of it was more the toy box mode where you could go enter like a fighting arena or a vehicle arena and just kind of tool around and just do whatever. You can do whatever you want. I mean, you can go to a house they call it your house. You can decorate it however you want and put all your friends in there and grab different characters. Or that's kind of like the open world type format. And then we got to play through the Clone Wars version, which is called the Jedi. I think it's Jedi Twilight. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it is.
Yes.
With Ahsoka and Anakin. So as you play through that, you can pick up like these little coins that have like Finn and Rey and Poe, and you can collect those, and they'll be playable in those story modes. So you can drop Kanan in versus Darth Maul. We did that, and it was such a blast. And I have to be out of the room for the minute. And my son paused it and he was like, "Dad, you gotta come see this. Kanan is kicking Darth Maul's butt." You know, it was so funny. I took a picture and tweeted out to Prairie Prince Jr. and he had a blast tweeting back at that. So. It was a lot of fun to drop these characters.
As did Sam Witwer.
Oh yeah, and Sam Witwer got in the conversation there. He's a blast too. It's cool to and I told my kids that afterwards. Like, wait, what? What we got to talk? You know, it's just like that connection, and that just stems back to the joy and world of the internet. So and Twitter and conversations and stuff. So it's cool for those guys to drop in. It's
fun to hear this. Tell me about the individual characters and what you enjoyed about them specifically.
Oh, sure,
or what the kids did.
So, I guess start with the Force Awakens characters. Kylo Ren was a big favorite. He's brooding. He's mad. He's always kind of like...
Is he fast?
He's kind of fast. He's powerful. He definitely has some power strokes to him. He's got like his giant, saber there to carve up the ground and stuff and carve up enemies and stuff like that. So, and as you play along, you can like upgrade each character and their moves and some of their subsets and power moves and stuff. So we did that. I think most with Kanan. I think he's been the biggest favorite. But Rey was a big favorite too because there's a part in the game where you can get like a backpack and get different weapons, like a pirate sword or a Buzz Lightyear gun, and one of them was a green lightsaber. So folks wondering about like having Rey with a lightsaber in the game, you can give her a lightsaber in this Disney Infinity and have her run around with a lightsaber.
Toy box mode?
It is in toy box mode, yeah, but that's a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, another interesting thing is, and I was curious about that, Finn does have like kind of like a punch combo where he will bring out the blue lightsaber and take a couple swipes, which I think was really cool.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
It was pretty neat. I don't know if that's an upgrade on some of his moves and stuff, but I mean, it's kudos to my kids. They were playing the heck out of this game and having a blast. So, I mean, it's so much fun. And there's so many different characters now that we want to get and drop into these worlds and have them, match up against each other. I know that, the big Avengers set came out for Captain America, Civil War just recently this past week, and that looks really cool. There's Black Panther and Ant-Man and Captain America, of course,
and black costume Spidey.
Yeah, oh yeah, I did see that. That was
pretty
cool.
Slick.
Yeah, but to drop these guys and do like a Star Wars world versus Marvel, oh man, there's cage matches for sure.
That. It's like the Star Wars place that you can't, but in toy box mode you can do anything. Or
right.
like that versus thing, which is my favorite.
So right, yeah, maybe I'm misspeaking here, but it has to be in toy box mode, which is kind of that free open world where they can run around and kind of do whatever. So the story modes, I don't particularly think that the Marvel can cross into the Star Wars universe.
At least not right now.
Well, Marvel did the most recent one. Marvel came out with Battlegrounds, which has you kind of match up the version 2.0 Marvel characters versus the version 3.0 characters.
Sure.
Which sounds like a lot of fun. So we'll definitely be checking some of these things out. I do want to mention too that we got the Zootopia figures to play, and they were a lot of fun too. So that's the other thing. Oh, I meant to mention this to our youngest daughter. She was so excited, but she kept playing Minnie Mouse and Minnie Mouse with a lightsaber. Folks, if you can envision, you can't beat that. I mean, here she is throwing her purse at people and knocking bad guys out and saying "oopsie daisy," and it's just like it is.
Oopsie daisy.
Yeah, there you go. It is a blast. If you guys are on the fence on getting some of these characters and you got some characters that you were just near and dear to your heart, go pick them up. Go pick this game up for your kids, for yourself. I mean, I have a blast playing the game. I mean, I want to get with you and hook up some weekend and just have a good time playing it. So. I think it'd be a blast. It's just fun and enjoyable. So
it would be.
Yeah, it's something that's that we're going to play for a long time.
So what about Poe though? How is he?
Yeah, so Poe, he's cool because they love changing his costume around, putting on the jacket. Yeah, so with some of their characters too, I mean, they come with these little discs. They kind of give upgrades too. I want to mention because they're powerful stuff. There's one where it kind of rains down like this missile launching thing on your bad guys. Another cool thing was some of these discs, the Zootopia characters can switch costumes. So like for Nick Wilde, the little fox guy, he can switch to like a police officer's uniform, or Judy Hopps, you can put on it's like a ticketing ticket taker's uniform with a black, like an orange vest.
She's fast, isn't she?
Yeah, so she's like, she can kind of jump kind of high if you upgrade some of her powers, and she's got this like little dart gun that she can shoot and like tranquilize bad guys, and they kind of like go like sleepy for a little bit, which is kind of fun too. And she's really kind of a quick little fighter. And so another cool thing, Nick Wilde, the Fox character from Zootopia, he fights with a it's like a lollipop, or not a lollipop, it's like a freeze pop. Popsicle. Sorry, it's popsicle. And he's swinging this popsicle around.
Who doesn't?
Right, exactly. I have yet to see Zootopia. I've heard good things.
I've heard really good things.
Yeah,
Yes.
and again, Disney doesn't disappoint. So, yeah, he swings around a popsicle and like smacks his enemies with this purple popsicle, and he like gets on the enemies, so like all sticky and stuff. He can throw little sticky popsicle bombs and stuff. So it's one of those dynamics that's like, we're like, what is the deal with this? So, but our kids are laughing and they're having a good time. So it's so much fun. Again, the discs are kind of like a secret feature that characters can use. So another example, Finn can switch to the Stormtrooper armor, which is pretty cool, to kind of fill that play set and get them kind of, to look different and act different. So there's a lot of components to this that folks should run out and check out if they're interested, and have a good time.
Hey, it's Dan Z
and Cory Club
from Coffee with Kenobi, and we are excited to let you know about the Star Wars card trader app from Topps.
Yeah, Dan, you remember those cards that came out in 1977, the good old days? Well, they're back again. Yeah, so it's the Star Wars card trader app. It has them all, as well as fantastic images from The Force Awakens, The Clone Wars, Rebels, and much more.
Absolutely. You've got your favorite characters, memorable scenes, you've got key moments. It's all there. You get credits every day for free from the app, which is available from iTunes or Google Play. Open packs from the cantina, trade with your friends, and enjoy these amazing Star Wars memories as you take your first step into a larger world.
There's so many different sets to choose from also, and there's so many great cards to chase. There's special inserts, there's rewards for completing sets and variants. It's everything you love in collecting from a galaxy far, far away.
The Star Wars digital card trader collecting app from Topps.
These are the cards you're looking for.
Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view.
I must be allowed to speak.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
Our topic for show number 52 is the impact of The Force Awakens on the Star Wars saga. How does viewing the saga through The Force Awakens affect the history of Star Wars so far? What do the events and characters mean for the franchise, and how does this impact the series going forward? We also want to explore the impact the film has had both cinematically and culturally. Returning to Coffee with Kenobi to discuss this topic is the best-selling author of How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, Chris Taylor. This incredible book took the literary world by storm, as has its author. Chris is deputy editor of Mashable.com, the world's largest social media and technology website, is an insightful Star Wars aficionado, and a heck of a nice guy. Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you. It's good to be back here, and it's good to be back here when I'm not at Burning Man, which is, I believe, where I was for my first appearance. So.
That's correct. I believe you had to go to great lengths to find a quiet spot, and it worked out well. That was a very well-received show, and we had the good fortune to spend some time with you at Celebration Anaheim last year. In fact,
yes.
You and I and Scott Murray and Thomas Riddle from Star Wars in the Classroom we immediately got together and talked about the premiere of Season 2 of Rebels, and that was a good time as well.
It was, yes, and now we're looking at the finale of Season 2 and the whole event around that. So it's an interesting bookend.
I know it's certainly got an ominous vibe going out there. I think it's going to be very emotional. And this whole thing is going to be emotional because we're going to talk about The Force Awakens. Before we get into the impact of the actual film itself, I'd like to discuss your experiences at the premiere of The Force Awakens, from receiving your invite, the hoopla of the event, and then seeing the film for the first time.
Oh my goodness. It was just a dream to be there. And, I never in a million years could have predicted the circumstances, which is that I was actually on book tour in Brazil, just days before the premiere, and literally had to fly from Sao Paulo to San Francisco, had a 2-hour stopover back home, here in the Bay Area. during which I had an interview with a Spanish TV journalist, and rather randomly, because the book isn't even out in Spain yet, and then had to get on a plane and go to LA and drive to my hotel that I'd sort of randomly booked, because they didn't. So one thing, if you saw the invite, you know that they didn't specify which theater it was going to be in, or indeed where it was going to be in, beyond just saying the premiere's in Hollywood. And you know, because this is Disney, and they could just do that, just say be in Hollywood on this day, and you're like, okay,
that narrows it down.
That narrows it down. So I booked a room at the Roosevelt Hotel on Hollywood, it's on Sunset, or well, anyway, it's right there down in the middle of Hollywood. Thinking, you know, it's pretty central. It's a cheap rate. We got there. My wife and I drive up in the rental car, and we're like, you know, something's blocking our access to the hotel. Oh, it's the giant tent for the premiere of The Force Awakens. I guess it's right here. I guess we chose the right hotel. And that was fantastic. You know, I was able to sneak out the night before and peek into the tent, and I saw the Kylo Ren car that they had set up in there. That was just a very brief sneak peek of the whole thing. And then the day itself, my goodness, that was just craziness. They had metal detectors set up on the sidewalks. You know, you could not walk down the Walk of Fame in Hollywood without being forced to go through these metal detectors. It was really bizarre. We had to run all over the place to get security wristbands, my press pass, and then the tent itself. I mean, I've just never seen anything like it. It felt like it went on for a mile, and you know, it was red carpet the whole way, screens everywhere, fans outside on the bleachers screaming, and you know, all sorts of stuff. You know, beautiful lightsaber display with this sort of giant sculpture of lightsabers pointing everywhere, like the floodlights. And so much stuff, and I barely got a chance to explore it all before, you know, the press was sort of ushered back in behind the line, where we're, you know, standing waiting for all the celebrities and the stars to come past. And yeah, I mean, from that point on, it was just a blur. I remember I was trying to Periscope the whole thing. We had live video. We had Snapchat going on the red carpet. I mean, it was crazy. And then, you know, and you see coming down the line, you know, oh, here's Daisy Ridley, here's Oscar Isaac. And you're just trying to hold it together as a Star Wars fan, right?
Sure,
as anyone put in that situation, like I'm going to be professional, I'm going to be a journalist. I'm not going to melt into a puddle in front of them. But yeah, and it just sort of went by in a blur, and it's very interesting. If you know, if you've ever been in a red carpet situation, it's not like you get to speak to everyone. There's sort of a line that they go down, kind of like a receiving line at a wedding, or you know, something like that. But it's, you know, you think, oh, I'm great. I'm going to get a chance to interview everyone. There's Bob Iger coming down. I'm going to get a chance to talk to him. But no, it's sort of this. People skip around, and publicists come to you and say, okay, you know, we've got Daisy Ridley here. Do you want to talk to him? Yes.
Twist my arm, please.
Here's Gwendolyn Christie. Do you want to talk to her? Sure. You know. So yeah, that's just fantastic. I remember standing next to the kid from the Volkswagen Super Bowl commercials who played Darth Vader was standing next to me, and he was doing reporting for Entertainment Tonight. And he was absolutely adorable.
You gotta love that.
Yes, so I think I benefited from sort of his reflected glow. In that everyone wanted to come down and talk to him, so you know I managed to get in on those interviews as well. I think probably the highlight of the night was getting one word out of Harrison Ford, who is just notoriously prickly in interviews. And
yes,
we were about to head into the show. You know, they were kind of shutting down the line. I know Mark L. Hamill was basically the last guy standing. He was just talking to everyone and wouldn't stop. But Harrison Ford came down, and I just sort of, you know, shook his hand, and I
knew right there.
I knew the big spoiler going in.
Oh, how?
And I wanted to sort of ask him about that without really giving anything away or, being dragged away by Disney security. And so I just said to him, if Han Solo's involvement in the franchise were to come to an end, how would you remember your time in Star Wars? And he just, looked at me with that mad stare that he has and just said, fondly.
That was a well-phrased question, though, I must say.
Yeah, well,
it's like you've done that before.
Thanks. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Thank you very much, sir. Then we had to head in. And I didn't even know up until that point which of the 3 theaters they were going to be in, because they were showing the premiere simultaneously in the El Capitan, in the Chinese theater, and then in the big Dolby theater. And so we got our tickets. My wife and I, turned out we were in the Dolby theater, which is the one where they did the big presentation on stage, and George Lucas is sitting there in the audience, and everyone gives him a standing ovation before it all starts. And it's just, wow. I mean, as a Star Wars fan, you're just living the dream right there. At that
if you could see Cory and my faces right now, our
I got goosebumps. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm skipping over a lot of detail. I mean, there's my wife likes to tell the story of she was waiting for me with the tickets. We had this problem about meeting up, and they'd given her the tickets, and they didn't know that they'd given her the tickets. The left hand did not know what the right hand was doing in terms of Disney staff there, and so she's standing there waiting for me somewhere that she's not supposed to be in. Harrison Ford walks right past her, having I just interviewed her, and totally checks her out.
Oh, jeez.
She's wearing a very, a top that is not necessarily revealing unless you're as tall as Harrison Ford is. But yeah, he checks her out approvingly, gives her a nice smile. Her day was just made by that.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Oh, that scoundrel.
Yes, indeed. You old smoothie. Gotta love it. Yeah, and then we come out, and they made you turn in your phones before the premiere began, and all I'm thinking of as I come out is, what am I going to tweet? Everyone's standing in these long lines to get their phones back, and I'm just I have to tell the world that don't worry about it. It's a great movie. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it's fantastic. So I just sort of spent the first 15 minutes in a daze, kind of wandering through the tent, not even hungry, not even interested in the food or the drink around us, just sort of sending out these little tweets, saying it's fantastic, you're going to love it when it comes out, and then I sort of have to stop because John Boyega's rushing past, being chased by fangirls. And the night was just full of moments like that. It was such a delight, and easily one of the best nights of my life.
Well, it sounds incredible, and as much as we, like you said, you could talk for hours about it. We're jealous to no end, but The Force Awakens itself is kind of impacted culturally all over the world, and having it kind of its placement into the saga itself. How would you say the viewing the saga entirely here through the lens of The Force Awakens, how does that affect the history of Star Wars so far?
Well, I mean, there are any number of ways to answer that question, right? You could talk about how does it affect it in universe, how does it affect it in our world. I mean, it brought Star Wars back in a big way. It opened up the eyes of a new generation. I recently had cause to go back to the UK and visit my very young cousins who are all in the 7 to 10 age bracket, and they're all massively in love with Finn, which I didn't expect. Most kids I've talked to up until now are really into Rey, and Rey seems to be the big hero of the whole thing. But no, these cousins love Finn. Lots of other people love Oscar Isaac. I mean, it gives you something new to latch onto, a new way into this massive new universe, a gateway drug, if you will. I think that it proved that that Star Wars can be resuscitated again and again, which is something I dealt with in the book. You know, Star Wars came back from the dead twice. Mm-hmm. This is essentially, I mean, it was never quite dead after Revenge of the Sith, but here it is again, coming back bigger and better than ever, and with a movie that did so well in so many eyes, made such a big splash, did such good box office. So the effect is incalculable. The movie itself, that there are certain problems I had with it. I would say that it improved on a second and third viewing. By the third viewing, I decided that it's basically a movie of two halves, of 2 hours. And I think that the first hour, everything up until and including the lightsaber vision, is not just one of the best hours of Star Wars, but one of the best hours of cinema, full stop.
Wow.
And it just, I mean, it's beautiful. When you look at some of those early Rey scenes, the story that they managed to tell without a single word of dialogue, I mean, that's brilliant art house cinema right there. J.J. Abrams was sort of critiqued for saying before the film that, he was inspired by Terrence Malick and a lot of these other sort of cutting edge filmmakers of the 70s. But you could really see it in those scenes. And, you could see that this is not just blockbuster entertainment. This is something more. He's going for these big emotional notes here. And I felt that those scenes with Rey on Jakku were sort of the equivalent of Luke looking at the double sunset in the original movie, but just stretched out, like it was a symphony and they were just holding that single note for what felt like an age. I mean, you really felt for her. You were living her life. It was just tremendous filmmaking. And then the second hour, pretty much at the halfway point, suddenly we get Starkiller Base out of nowhere. And it really seemed to violate a lot of the rules of storytelling. It's sort of, it's Chekhov's gun. You sort of have to have that gun in early scenes for it to go off in later scenes. And with the previous Death Stars, they're introduced pretty much straight away. Fairly early on in Star Wars and right at the beginning in Return of the Jedi. But here, we're an hour into the movie and we don't know anything about this Starkiller Base until it just suddenly shows up. Suddenly we see Hux is there, giving that speech. And it is a tremendous speech in isolation. And a lot of the second hour of the movie is very good in isolation, but just put together, it didn't quite feel right, didn't quite fit right. It felt shoehorned. And, I think a lot of the complaints that I think are basically nonsense, that it was a retread or a remake of New Hope, emanated from the attack on Starkiller Base. So
I agree with that. In fact, the Starkiller Base, I remember we were on the full Sith trailer analysis show right during halftime of Monday Night Football, and I remember saying, if there's another Death Star, I'm going to have a problem with that. It almost appears to be like a death of creativity in a way, because we've seen this over and over again. And the point you're making about storytelling, I think, is rather poignant, because yes, talk about forcing something in there. That would be my one quibble. But I do agree with you though. I find those that are saying that it's too similar to A New Hope, I find that to be rather trite at this point, especially considering that if it wasn't similar in tone to that, the roars would be twice as deafening.
Yes, I agree. I think they made a lot of the right choices. And I think that it's nice that the movie's biggest problem is that it had too many ideas, right? And there was too much stuff squeezed in there. What I would have much preferred, and I think they sort of squandered Starkiller Base in the same way that George Lucas said that he accidentally squandered the Death Star by blowing it up in the first film. So that led him to, have to recreate it again for Return of the Jedi. I would love to have seen a trilogy in which the threat is introduced in film 1, becomes greater in film 2, and then, is finally realized in film 3. So, I don't necessarily have a problem with Starkiller Base being another bigger, better Death Star. But I do have a problem with it being squandered. I think the scene of it sucking the energy out of the sun was so rich and so beautiful from so many perspectives, from this sort of the color palette, the way that Kylo Ren's face suddenly turns red when when his mood changes with Han on the platform. There's so many wonderful things that you could do with that. You could just have the first movie being about Starkiller Base sucking in the energy out of the sun, and maybe it could have just killed the Hosnian system off that way.
And that would have been something that really would have had more cost. I mean, I think when you see these planets exploding, I didn't realize until multiple viewings later that the planet that exploded was where the New Republic was. It didn't even dawn on me. Oh my goodness, no wonder it was so traumatic. I mean, you sort of had an inkling because it looked similar to Coruscant, but yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. And there's so many metaphors to that scene as well. I took my students to see The Force Awakens because, of course, that's something you have to do. That's in my contract as an educator. And we had to come up with critical thinking questions, and much of it was around that idea of darkness and light and that particular scene with Kylo and Han Solo that you're speaking of.
Yeah, and I think, overall it was successful. Obviously, there's every fan has something that would change. It wouldn't be Star Wars otherwise.
That's right.
And, overall, I think we breathed a huge sigh of relief afterwards. I mean, it's interesting. During the premiere, that was my first viewing of it, obviously, and I'm just sort of leaning forward in my seat, and I'll give you the PG-13 version of what I was saying throughout the whole thing in my head was, don't screw it up, don't screw it up, don't screw it up. And you're just sort of on edge. And then the second time you can relax. And, it's such a beautiful feeling because you know everything that's going to happen. And now you can just sort of ease into it. And it's like, we get the opening scene, the stormtroopers land, then we cut to the tent on Jakku. And you're in there, and you're in that tent, and you're immersed in it, and you look around at all of the beautiful set design and the stuff that's, just in there in the corners of this set for you see it for 2 seconds, but it just really enhances the feeling of you're there, you're living in this galaxy, and it just you get that feeling throughout, and that to me is the quintessence of Star Wars, that sense of immersion. And they totally achieved that. But you sort of have to view it 2 or 3 times to get there, to get to the point where you're not so worried about the story or so focused or obsessed by the story that you can just relax and, look at the beautiful job that was done in all of these other departments.
You bring up a good question too. It's I've thought about this myself. I remember when I first saw it in theaters, Dan and I saw it the premiere on that Thursday night, and after viewing it myself, I went home and spoke with my wife for a while, and I felt physically ill just because of, I don't know if that was just because of, my anticipation building up to it and having seen it over, all of our media types follow the news and kind of leading up to the film, and I felt exhausted afterwards. But then, like you said, we went and saw it a second time, took my kids with us. I went and saw it with my parents, with my brother, and I just really enjoyed it the third time, and what is it, would you say, about this film upon multiple viewings makes it unique in that way? Is it cultural anticipation that we have as fans of Star Wars, and how would you say that plays into it?
Yeah, I mean, the anticipation is obviously tremendous, and I think on a certain level we all sense that no movie can hold up to that level of scrutiny. And I mean, I think you look back at some of the early reviews of Empire Strikes Back, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like, it's not as good as Star Wars. I didn't quite get that same feel from it. Maybe I was expecting too much, and it's weird that it just ends on this cliffhanger and there's no resolution. it does take a while for that sort of thing to sink in, especially if you're such a huge fan of the original. So I think that's normal. I mean, I get that experience when an artist I like brings out a new album. You have to listen through it once just to sort of prepare the ground and kind of say, okay, this song is probably going to disappoint me in the long run, or hey, this song has some sort of interesting rhythms to it, and I'm not quite getting it yet, but I know that I'm going to, enjoy that on re-listening. And I think that's just something we have to, accept around popular culture today, that everything is that way, that stuff that is meant to have this repeatability, you're not necessarily going to enjoy it without anxiety if you're a huge fan.
It's so true. It's my wife, as we were of course leading up to the film, I'm sure all of us have Star Wars widows to an extent, and I think so much of this the film. I think I learned in 1999 with the Phantom Menace to sort of try to curb my enthusiasm, and not in a Larry David way, but although that is a wonderful show.
It was it was a good lesson for all of us. I remember having to do the same with the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I kind of having to reel it in, because the Phantom Menace, I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the show, but I love that movie. I saw it like 9 times in theater, but the first time it was like a sucker punch. This time, my expectations were different, but someone you mentioned that you were aware of the big spoiler. The only reason I was aware of the spoilers, about an hour before I saw the movie, someone posted on our Facebook, on our Coffee with Kenobi's Facebook, what happened. I was stunned. That guy's banned.
That's yes.
Yeah, I was
that's almost a capital offense, right there.
Agreed. And we've pretty much spent 2.5 years championing no spoilers. So that was a bit of a letdown. And then when I saw Han Solo walk on that scaffolding, I thought, it's true. It's true. And so that was a bit jarring, and God bless Cory for having to listen to me complain about it for 48 hours. but I've seen it 6 times, and it builds and it builds. And I think one of the things that's so strong about this movie, that is so incredibly captivating, is Kylo Ren. So we've got Kylo Ren, we've got the First Order, they're the new villains in the saga naturally. But for you, how does Kylo Ren reinvent and reinvigorate this franchise and present new challenges for our heroes?
Oh, I think it was a wonderful choice to make Kylo Ren this sort of the emo teenager. I mean, we can't talk about it without talking about the Twitter account, right? Kylo Ren, which was just, the reason that took off was it was genius. He seemed to crystallize something about a certain type of teenager, perhaps, or some people say sort of representative of the millennial generation or whatever. It became a cultural moment, a thing that everyone was talking about, and Kylo Ren crystallized something. And it's so risky to make your main villain somewhat, if we're not counting Snoke, someone who has these doubts, someone who has this rich history and emotional legacy that you can explore in future films. It's when Darth Vader comes on the screen in Star Wars, you know nothing about him. You learn nothing about him other than, we think he killed Anakin Skywalker, right? And he was, Kenobi's apprentice, and that failed, and all of that. And that's got some depth to it, but he's really, to be honest, in the original movie, kind of a cardboard cutout. Of course, we can't watch it now without knowing all that came before that, and that's exactly what Lucas was going for, right? This sort of change the building blocks around, you change the nature of the character. But with Kylo Ren, it's built in from the start. That wonderful line that Rey throws at him, you're afraid that you'll never be as good as Darth Vader.
Yes.
How can you... It's so risky to undercut your villain like that by having your hero say that. And it's sort of, in certain contexts, that really wouldn't work. And it would make the movie seem somehow empty and without a threat. And maybe that's why Starkiller Base had to be played up so much. I don't know. But, I think, oh God, one of my favorite scenes in my first viewing of the film, and I had other favorites later on subsequent viewings, but was I think the second time that Kylo is kind of tearing stuff up in the cell, just to vent his rage, and you get those two troopers walking up, they're about to debrief him, and they just sort of decide this is probably not the best time, we're just going to turn around. With just such genius to do that, and unlike nothing you'll ever see in any other film, I think.
Well, and there's also a lovely juxtaposition between Kylo Ren and Darth Vader as well, because they're both dangerous and menacing and foreboding, but for very opposite reasons. One is completely in control, seemingly, and one is out of control, and they both present a particular kind of threat.
Yeah, and it's an interesting metaphor, I think, for what the movie itself was trying to do. Kylo Ren was afraid that he wouldn't live up to what came before. That's exactly what it must have been going through J.J. Abrams' head the whole time.
Yes.
You're afraid that you'll never be as good as Empire,
What a lovely meta commentary. I love it.
Yeah, and it's, and it works on so many levels. And you do sort of feel sorry for him in a way. And I think it's very telling that this, obviously blatantly incorrect theory has been doing the rounds and just won't die. The theory that he's actually a spy on the inside.
Oh dear.
You guys know this theory I'm talking about?
I am aware. I don't think we have another Dumbledore or Snape on our hands, though.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's so easily shot down, but the theory lives on, and I think it's because people see these shades of grey in this character, and they think, well, they almost start to sympathize with them. I mean, it's sort of like, if you have a kid and he acts out and he destroys his bedroom on one day, on one level, you're like, okay, I've got to discipline that kid. He's being bad. This is, I've got to do something about this. Maybe he's got to see a therapist. But at the same time, your heart feels for him. And I think, when you feel that when Kylo's, destroying the room the first time, when he takes his helmet off the first time, Adam Driver is so good at kind of projecting that emotional turmoil that you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him in a way that you end up feeling sorry for Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi, but it takes 3 movies to get there.
Yes,
here they got there in the first film.
And of course it's the family lineage there is something that adds a unique twist, because there's already almost 40 years of buy-in for what that means. Which is so unique and wonderful about these stories too.
Yeah, and anyone who's had a domineering parent or a family member that they just don't feel they can ever surpass has to have had some sympathy for Kylo in that moment.
Yeah, so we've talked about Kylo Ren and his struggle there, but a lot of this film is about introducing new characters to us. So how do the new heroes, Rey, Finn, and Poe, stack up against the original big 3, Leia, Luke, and Han?
Well, it's hard to beat that trio for chemistry, and I don't think that this trio manage it. But I think individually, they are in some ways better. I don't want to get into this kind of compare and contrast thing, but certainly, I mean, Daisy Ridley is an absolute star. I mean, what a discovery! The fury that she has, that sort of a righteous anger when she meets Finn for the first time and she's coming at him because she thinks that he's killed BB-8's master and that's one of his mine, and she just purses her lips into this snarl, and it's I cannot forget that moment. And then again, the scene that has everyone cheering, where the lightsaber whizzes past Kylo Ren, and she grabs it in the final battle. I mean, she's so strong and so powerfully projects what that character is that you just don't get anything like that in the original trilogy. It's horses for courses. They're different characters. They're appeal to us in different ways. But I think that this was some very strong casting. I think John Boyega, one thing that I didn't expect from him is he's actually a great comedic actor.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the success of Finn's role, that sort of thing. That's right, I'm with the Resistance. I'm with the Resistance. As you see in his head, he kind of suddenly realizes this is what he's got to project of himself. The classic scene with him and BB-8 doing the thumbs up. I mean,
yes.
He's just, I can see why my cousins love him.
Well, that scene, I'm afraid it runs the risk of becoming the new "It's a Trap" for our generation.
That's funny.
It is. It's true. Oscar Isaac was I think underused.
Agreed.
There were we may find out with the Blu-ray there were some scenes cut out. Certainly, there's a scene in the novelization that explains how he escaped from Jakku and got back to the Resistance. But even then, I just don't see how there wasn't enough room for him to breathe. And again, I guess that's the problem with the movie, just being too overstuffed with things that it had to explain. And it did a very good job of really economic explanation of everything. But there were so many economic explanations that there wasn't room for a lot of things to breathe. And I think one of the things that suffered was Poe Dameron.
I think is in history will most likely show us that was by design. Much like the original three films, how some of the characters are focused more prominently in certain movies in certain moments, and that kind of adds a little bit, I think, more to a mythological way of looking at these stories.
But he also didn't quite have a scene that defined him, I thought.
Fair enough. I agree. I told one of my friends he was the most prequel-esque of the big three, and he told me to shut my mouth, but I think it was McGee. But no, I agree. I think he was very underused. And I'm hoping, I know certainly the Marvel is happy with the pre-sales of the Poe comic that's coming out very soon, but hopefully we'll see more of him.
Oh, absolutely. And I do wonder if they're going to have the love triangle thing in subsequent films. You sort of got a hint of romance with Finn and Rey, and you got to wonder, where does Poe come in and all of this? And that was just the tremendous chemistry that you had between the original three. In that first movie, not least of which because there were actually affairs going on the set. So they sort of, the chemistry that you see in the final medal scene is absolutely real. And the winking and the staring and the what's up and all these beautiful gestures that they made towards each other, that was real. And I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see more scenes where the three of them are together. And where you get to see them playing off each other and you get to see whether they have that kind of romantic chemistry.
You're talking about Maz and Chewie, right?
Well, that's, obviously who the whole internet is shipping, isn't it?
That's funny.
Gotta love that Maz and Chewie fanfic.
Oh, my. So we could easily have you on every show. It's just wonderful to kind of pull a chair up and listen to you wax poetic about Star Wars. And you're as gifted of a speaker as you are a writer, so we really appreciate you coming back on to Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you. You're very kind. I feel like I'm just rambling most of the time, but I'm glad you enjoy it.
We do. It's a controlled focus rambling, which we appreciate. So what new projects are you working on that you're allowed to share with us? And how can listeners get in contact with you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Well, you can always reach out to me on Twitter, where I'm Future Boy, and that's the social network where I'm most active. You can obviously read my stories on Mashable, and I am working on book number 2, and it's a little bit different. It does have elements of Star Wars and science fiction in there, both get a mention. But it's basically about utopia and dystopia.
Oh wow!
And why we have so little of the former and so much of the latter, and it's an attempt to redress the balance.
Wow, that sounds fascinating. I cannot wait to enjoy that. That's going to be great. Well, thank you so much, Chris, again for being a wonderful guest on Coffee with Kenobi. Have a wonderful night, and we look forward to chatting with you in the future.
Thanks, guys. Always good to talk. Take care.
Our topic for show number 53 is The Force Awakens through the eyes of a new generation. The latest Star Wars film brings another generation to the Star Wars fan community. We have Patreon contributor Connor Daniels joining us to share his thoughts on The Force Awakens, how it compares to Revenge of the Sith, and much more. But that's not all. We also have returning guest Steve Sansweet to discuss the latest offerings in Star Wars merchandise and memorabilia. His thoughts on the new film, and anything else he wants to discuss, because he's Steve Sansweet and awesome. Be sure to send us your email or MP3 with your thoughts, comments, questions, and opinions to feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com.
I like the sound of that.
Echo 3 to Echo 7. Ano, buddy, do you read me?
I saw part of the message.
I seem to have found it.
Our first email comes from Shane Luke, and he says, Dan and Cory, sorry this is long in coming, but I wanted to thank you guys for the coffee mug I was drawn for back at Star Wars Celebration. My fiance and I have used it multiple times. It is such a fantastic logo design. Thank you very much. Also wanted to send my condolences to Dan for having The Force Awakens spoiled for him. It was absolutely awful and can't believe that happened. Just wanted to give a shout out to all of the podcasts since they're all killing it, especially the Comics with Kenobi since I follow along with them as I get the comics. An idea for another podcast, maybe the same guys talking about Legends comics. Figured you guys have a Legends library for novels. Comics might be good too. Same deal on a monthly basis. Read about 12 comics and discuss. Also, I know you guys like to analyze, so I was wondering if you had heard the podcast Story and Star Wars. It only focuses on the story. Pretty interesting. Take a look at it. I don't agree with all of it, but it is fun and short series to listen to. Hope everything else is going well and keep up the amazing podcast, Shane Luke. Wow, so thanks so much, Shane. I remember giving those mugs out, and I think that whole celebration to me is kind of like a maniac blur sometimes when I think back to it. But the biggest thing I remember from Celebration is the fans and meeting people, making relationships and shaking hands and seeing people I've never met before and becoming friends face to face, you know. And obviously you're one of those folks, and it was a blast, I think, to be able to hang out with our friends and our fans there. And, you know, speaking to some of the stuff you mentioned, thanks again for the logo design. It was truly a love, passion for me to put together. And Dan
nominated.
Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Design.
So, yeah, it's crazy. And I'll let Dan kind of speak to the spoiled part. But I mean, I agree. It's difficult to stay away from that stuff as the internet kind of comes to grips with all the news and as we approach a new film. But you know, it's interesting in itself. And, you know, I think, too, we talked about this earlier in our news. We do work hard, our podcast do, and we enjoy what we do and love what we do. And it's all because of the fans to produce, you know, the love for us and support us. So we appreciate all that and emails like this. So it keeps us running, keeps us fueling up the coffee and spilling out more ideas for you know, podcasts and discussions and stuff. So, yeah, as you mentioned about doing the older comics, the Marvel series maybe, or maybe some of the Dark Horse stuff. Yeah, it's definitely maybe in the works. Maybe possibly down the line. I know we got all kinds of irons in the fire as far as the Coffee Kenobi family, and we're trying to juggle all different kinds of plates. Do we juggle plates? I guess you can juggle plates. Spin plates and juggle
from
balls.
Zach Designs.
There you go. Start spinning Star Wars plates. There you from Zach Designs. So, yeah, it's definitely, we're always up for, you know, something new and kind of see where it fits in the family and see if it's the right for us, but definitely just something to take consideration.
Yeah, and it's really more about time.
Oh, sure.
And finding the time to do stuff like that, because it is a cool idea. And Jeff and Matt have their plates full. Thanks for your kind words on Comics with Kenobi. We talked about earlier in the show, and they've done really, really well, and, you know, nominated for the literature portion of the Star Wars Podcasting Awards, and we're so proud of them. And I remember you, Shane, from Celebration, because you and your fiance sat in the front row on the left in the same row as Mike Pilot, and I remember just seeing your support, and it was just very cool, and I'm glad that you won the coffee mug, and glad you really like it, and I appreciate you saying what you said about what happened with me and getting The Force Awakens spoiled. And yes, it's still kind of hard to believe that, but I totally made peace with it, and I didn't turn to the dark side, Corey.
Yeah.
I embraced, and I was tempted. I think I was pretty tempted, but it's just not worth it. I still love the movie. I've seen it 6 times at the time of this recording, and it doesn't overshadow anything. What adds to it is listeners like you who are part of our Coffee with Kenobi family, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much for writing in. Our second email comes from Chris Baca, a longtime listener of the show, and he writes, "Really have enjoyed your shows about the new film. I've seen the film 10 times and probably will see it one more time before it leaves the theater. Some things I've noticed in the film." And as a little brief interlude, what Chris has, Corey, is pretty cool. So strap in. This is awesome.
Yeah.
All the new characters were introduced wearing masks, and by the end of the film, their masks have come off. There are a lot of allusions to the Wizard of Oz. Snoke was portrayed very much like the wizard, with the illusion of him being very big. Rey is like Dorothy. Instead of bringing back the witch's broom, she gets the saber. Her companion, BB-8, is Toto. Finn is the Tin Man. Han and Chewie are the Scarecrow and the Cowardly Lion. Isn't that fantastic? That's great.
That's cool.
Anyway, I don't usually interject my thoughts during the email, but this is too good. I also noticed Les Mis influences as well. FN 2187 is like Jean Valjean 24601. Both help an orphan and are both on the run from the law. Phasma has the potential to be Javier in episode 8 to hunt him down for leaving her alive in essentially a sewer. Rey is like Cosette. She has no her parents, and both are left with not so reputable people. Rey is left with Unkar Plutt, and he exploits her talents as a scavenger and mechanically, and he knows it all, just like the innkeeper uses Cosette to do chores around their end. I love the movie, and I really love the new characters. I still get chills every time I see the film, and I love the scene when Rey force grabs a saber and the music cue of the burning homestead plays. Love this show and keep up the great work. I also love the other shows on your feed. Chris Baca. Well, Chris, thank you, dude. And that is awesome. Like the Les Mis comparison, Deanna and I saw that in Chicago on Broadway. And we saw the movie too, by the way. And that's brilliant. I hadn't thought of that. And that's like the kind of stuff that Brian Young would find, in his column, the cinematic comment is for StarWars.com. So Brian, hopefully you hear this because Chris has some amazing comparisons I really enjoyed.
Yeah. So he mentioned Wizard of Oz and taking the masks off.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I was thinking about it, Poe isn't necessarily wearing a mask. He seems to be himself. Maybe he's not integrated into that kind of relationship, but same with we're trying to think of like Han Solo and Leia. Maybe they're not necessarily in that context, but maybe they're unmasking who they really are. Maybe Poe knows who he is, in that way. So Finn's still looking to reveal himself or understand who he is, so he's removing his mask. Rey removes her mask very early in the film, and of course Kylo does. We've mentioned before, where he seems to go to the light side, removing that dark figure of himself. But yeah, it's interesting, the comparisons here related to literature and other films. Yeah, I like the comparison to Jean Valjean from Les Mis, and another thing that crossed my mind too is Oliver Twist, and even the Broadway show Annie. The orphan part of Rey, looking to discover the world and the folks who take her under their wing. It's interesting to compare that kind of stuff. I'm sure we could go more in depth. It's fascinating to think about. And this is definitely new show material right here, folks. You're hearing it for the first time. It gives you chills and it gets you excited to talk about it. And Chris has done a great job comparing some of the stuff. So if anybody else has more comparisons or thoughts, send them in. Our next email comes from Mike Franz, and he says, "Dear Dan and Corey, glad to hear that Coffee with Kenobi is back in full swing. Thank you for all your hard work in putting together the show. I would just like to say some quick words about the topic for show 52, the impact of The Force Awakens. In terms of the Star Wars universe, I feel like it gave us so many new details within the galaxy that it will take us until the release of Episode 8 to sort through them all. In terms of pop culture, it is clear to me that Star Wars is in overdrive with merchandising and fan resurgence in not just Episode 7, but the other 6 films as well. The anticipation alone for The Force Awakens helped Star Wars become more mainstream than it already was, and is not going away anytime soon. Keep up the great work and look forward to listening to all of you, the lineup in the Coffee With Kenobi family. Your friend, Mike Franz. Well, thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate you being a listener, tuning in to our show, and it is good to be back in kind of full swing for the new year. It's exciting too, as much as we think about Star Wars, it's interesting to think about leading up to Force Awakens and how the anticipation level was so large, because it's such a cultural pop icon, in film and in our lives as far as fandom goes, leading up to it, and then all the things that were connected to it, the Force Friday, the merchandise reveals, the books, and tying it back into the original films, the prequels. There's just so much. I think it's such an investment, I think, to take that on. I think it's even, I've said this before too, it's almost a little daunting, I think, having seen Force Awakens now and kind of still realizing that. And we talked about it earlier as it comes to DVD and having it at home and watching it, 100 times over and analyzing and putting things together and watching behind the scenes stuff and adding more context to some of the storylines or some of the characters we just now are getting used to. I remember hearing for some of the first time some of the new characters' names, and they kind of had to sit in and sit well with us. And now they feel like they're parts of a family as far as Star Wars goes.
It's all part of it, absolutely. Yeah, and again, thinking back, for some reason, this is a very nostalgic show, but thinking back to before we watched the movie, and I remember when the opening scroll started, and I kind of, when it said Luke Skywalker has gone missing or whatever the first line is of the scroll. Yeah, it's disappeared. Yeah, I remember looking at you and I just put my hands over my face and put my head down and shook my head like, oh my gosh, this is happening. Like I just got chills talking about this. And it's Mike, you capture well, and we appreciate your kind words and welcoming us back. It's so much fun to be on, and honestly, Cory, I don't know that I've said this to you, but it's so much easier scheduling wise. We're just doing one a month, but I kind of miss doing two a month. I don't know that we're going to change back to that anytime soon, because we've got a lot of stuff going on with our families, but it's nice to be appreciated, and it's nice to be a part of the Star Wars podcasting world. And I agree with you, Mike. Force Awakens has made Star Wars even more mainstream, which is saying something. And it's always been a part of households, but now it's household names. It's everywhere. It's just sort of as common as Campbell's soup. I don't know why that came into my head, but it's just there. It's everywhere. And so many podcasts have been inspired by The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And it's all thanks to J.J. Abrams and the magic of George Lucas's imagination. So,
yeah. Well, it's interesting too. To my pop culture and how that works. Obviously back in the olden days, they sat on a radio and listened to stories and news articles on the radio, and that was kind of like the talk of in their family, and you talk to your neighbors and such. And now the invention of the television, news reports, and now up to today in the internet, how we consume media is so much different nowadays. So much thrust in our face through social media and Facebook pages and news articles and everything and anything and everything. As far as we're very much consumable people. So it's just a lot more to consume, I think, in the context of merchandising and things like of that nature. So it's just different, and it's how we've grown as a culture. I think it's interesting to analyze and talk about. So definitely some good thoughts here, and appreciate you writing in.
Our last email, I've been chatting back and forth with Nelson Negrin on our Coffee with Kenobi Facebook. He sent us some messages.
Yeah.
And they started a new podcast, FN2187, and there's a link to it in our show notes. And they're just getting started, but they sure have a nice sound and a nice clear approach to Star Wars and their fandom. And they were very gracious about us on their premiere episode, and we really appreciate that, guys. So I wanted to make sure that everybody gets a chance to know that they are out there and they're exciting. And another, fresh voice in Star Wars fandom and podcasting. So click on the link in the show notes and subscribe and write them a review in iTunes.
Chewie, get us out of here!
If you would like to respond to the show topic, have a comment, or just want to say hello, send us an email or MP3 at feedback@coffeewithkenobi.com. Or if you have a specific question or comment for either of us individually, email us at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com or coryc@coffeewithkenobi.com, or visit our website at coffeewithkenobi.com and click on the Contact Us section, or comment on one of the stories featured on the site. If you enjoy the show, please write a review in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, as well as keep up to date on our Twitter feed at Coffee with Kenobi. You can also find us on Tumblr at coffeewithkenobi.tumblr.com. If you enjoy the jazz music, the album is Eye to Eye by Steve Torok.
Give the evacuation code signal.
That's it for show number 52 of Coffee with Kenobi. A huge thank you to Chris Taylor for joining us and for discussing the impact of The Force Awakens. Be sure to check out How Star Wars Conquered the Universe for some of the best Star Wars nonfiction you'll ever read. Be sure to check out the link to the book in the show notes.
A special shout out to Joe Taylor, Dennis Keithley, Angela Souse, Neil Lowry, Mediocre Jedi, Mike Winder, Daniel, Aaron Harris, Mike Sutter, Jesse, and Mike Audette for their contributions to Coffee with Kenobi's Patreon page. By supporting Patreon page, you help our show in so many ways and can also win a Coffee Chat podcast of your own. Check out our webpage or the show notes for more information. You can also support our show through our Amazon.com, Fandango, Cufflinks.com, Her Universe, and Zach Designs affiliate links on the site. Thank you for your generosity to the Coffee with Kenobi family.
Be sure to check out the other shows in our Coffee with Kenobi family: Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia, which are all here on the Coffee with Kenobi feed. A big thanks to media specialist Lisa Dullard, our Coffee with Kenobi bloggers, Nick DiColandrea, everyone who contributed to this show, and to all of you out there who listen to and email Coffee with Kenobi. Don't forget to send us your comments and opinions on the topic for show number 53, The Force Awakens through the eyes of a new generation.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.